Hello and welcome back to Live from the Bottom Half. If you're joining us again from our last few shows, welcome back. If you've joined us for the first time, you've missed out on one show, so you have to go back and watch it all and subscribe and do all that fun stuff. Today, what we are talking about is the Vanguard boxes. More widely than that is what we're talking about is list building from a completely new person's perspective. 99% of all players, when they start with an army, will go to the Vanguard box set because it's cheap and it's got stuff in it and you can play with it to a point, which is something we will be discussing today. So the next one we're talking about is for the fish fondlers out there, one of which is with us, is the Idoneth Deepkin. I'm not going to keep repeating the price. I'm going to say that every single slide, and then the first thing I'm going to say is the price. It's £85, 580 points. So again, we're starting to see now that there's a little bit of imbalance in the Vanguard boxes. It gets a bit wild later on as well. In here, we have words I cannot pronounce, but I'm going to try. The Ishana, that was the awful start.
Isharan.
The Isharan Soul Scryer. Alapex Anthony. The Morse. Oh, it's gone.
Oh, that's back. It's back. Sorry, it's back. There you go.
The Morse Guard and Ishlim Guard, and then a unit of 10 Unimati Thralls. This, it's going to sound really crazy what I'm about to say, is that I did not realize that they even had a Vanguard box. I know all one was it. When I saw it, I was like, oh, so I was quite surprised about what was in here. But Jason, as the spokesman for the Wet Elves, as Ben has just called him in the chat, talk to me about your fish.
Okay, so do the units first. So, Soul Scryer. It's not a hero I have used yet, even though he is an interesting model. So, his main thing is during deployment, but before the first battle round, you can take 2 units and the hero and set them off the board, and they can come back on at the end of the movement phase. So basically, just take them off and come in at the side of the board. There is one of these sub factions called, I'm not even going to try and pronounce it, begins with B, Bromdar, something like that. But means he can take 3 extra units with him. So that gives him the buff. So that's effectively 4 units off the board before you even start. It's great. He is a 5+ ward, a standard for all the Sharon heroes. His attack profile is all right. It's a standard sort of hero thing. So 5 wounds, 4 up save. Sort of standard sort of thing across most armies. He has a 12-inch range missile attack, 8 attacks, 2s and 4s, -1 for 1. And then a very pathetic melee weapon, which is the really fun name of the Finger Claw. 3 attacks, 3 3s, no rend for 1. A nice little hero if you build into that sort of idea, into that army. Then you get into the fun parts, as far as I see it. The Thralls. A unit of 10 of them is one of the cheapest things you're ever going to find at 120 points. 1 wound each, 5+ save. So they don't last that long. It's their attacks while they last, though. So that unit of 10 models, they have a 2-inch range on their attacks. So that means you're getting 21 attacks, 3s, 3s, -1 for 1.
Ooh.
As standard.
Yeah.
But they have a really weird rule, but really great rule. If you target an enemy unit that has a wounds characteristic of 1, you add 1 to the attacks characteristic. So that means you're fighting with 31 attacks. Minus 3 3s, -1 for 1. If you're attacking something with 3 or more wounds, you're adding an extra damage to the hits, and you get into 2 damage. If you're fighting something with 2 wounds, it's null and void. So you see, you really want to go something really, really pathetic or really strong, but not that middle ground. I ruled these guys out the first time I looked at IDK. I have played with them since. I understand where they are. For 120 points, they will hurt a lot. They'll die fast, but they'll hurt a lot while you actually have them on the board and just get them into the opponent. the Achillean Alapex, the shark. Even though they're not allowed to be called sharks, we pretty much worked out.
Yeah. Someone's copyrighted that word, and Games
Yeah,
Workshop has decided that, all right, we won't use the word sharks then.
I absolutely love these. They're actually showing up in wins actually recently. Two different types of missile attacks. One's a really 4 attacks, 3/3s, -1 for D3 damage, or 1 attack, 3/3s, -1. No, sorry, no rend. I think it is for 3. No rend for 3. If you get hit with the 1 attack thing, though, you can't pile in. Yes, you're less likely to hit it, but that's on the if you hit with it. So if you roll that first dice on a 3, 3+, you can't pile in. Whatever happens after that, you may hurt them, you may not, but it's that not piling in is the big thing. I absolutely love them. They're really good in melee as well. In this box, you only get 1. We'll talk about that in a minute, but you don't get a champion model in that. You only get a champion model if you reinforce them into groups of 2. But they're really good. So, I mean, like, you're hitting -1 for 1, -2 for 2 on their attacks. They're really decent models to have. You're going to want more than 1.
Yeah.
You really are. And then the other ones, the Achillean Guard, the Morsar Guard, or the Ishlaeen Guard. The 2 different types of eels. One that
is that part of the other Vanguard box? Is it? Or was that part of this box?
Part of this box, you get 1 group of 3 eels, and you can choose which one you make it into. Effectively, you're talking about offensive eels or defensive eels. The defensive eels have slightly less attacks, lose an ability that I absolutely love, which I'll talk about in a minute, but they're ethereal. So they get 4+ save that cannot be changed with rend or anything. The only difference is, if they make a charge, they change their characteristic to 3, so it actually becomes a 3+ ethereal save. So it's really quite a nice little tanky unit, because, I mean, they are hard to shift. The Morsar Guard, a little bit more attacky. They just have slightly better attacks. Don't have ethereal saves, but that's fine. They have one of the funnest abilities. I love this in the game. On the charge, you choose an enemy unit. You roll a number of dice equal to the enemy unit size, number of models in that unit. You add 1 to your roll if it's more than your men. Well, you've got 3, so you're almost definitely going to get that. For every 1 or 2 does nothing. 3 or 4 does a mortal. 5 or 6 does D3 mortals. So it really hits hard once per battle, but you know what? I don't care. It does its damage for that 1 ability, and then it's really good for charging into screens, because that will blow up, kill the screen, then all your other units can then charge past it.
Yeah.
Because that screen's gone, because it happens at the end of its charge. But to be fair, I will admit this, I've actually got this Vanguard box. I haven't painted the Soul Scryer yet. It is it's the only hero from it I haven't painted. It will be painted within a couple of weeks. Let's put it that way. But it's on the box set's worth the money. The Thralls are always amazing, and me personally, I like the sea creature side of this, so the sharks and the eels really work well in it.
Yeah.
So you mentioned you sounded a bit disappointed you only get 1 shark in there. Is that your next? What changes when you get more?
Okay, so you've got 2 different choices here. You can take them as single units, fine. You can reinforce them. If you reinforce them, the champion model, however much it disrupts the game a little bit, the champion model gets +1 to hit in melee combat. Not +1 to attack, +1 to hit in melee combat, but only that 1 model. Which is a bit annoying. Yeah, you have to split every attack out for every model in that unit. The other part is you take one of the sub-factions called Futhan, however you pronounce it, and they're called Bloodthirsty Shiver. It's 3 models, so it's 450 points at present. Although they're individual units, they're cast as 1 sort of group, so they don't have to be coherent with each other. and they can get one model from that. Each Bloodthirsty Shiver can get double hits if they're within 3 inches of another model in that Bloodthirsty Shiver. It gets triple hits on a 6 to hit.
Nice.
So you can really on the more powerful attacks, the ferocious bites, the ones that actually, if you want them on anything, you want them on that. Their range attacks are amazing. I would put a lot more sharks into this. I will say this because it's nothing that's really going to change. Ahead of London GT, I will be taking more sharks. I love them. I think
you hear
there's
it
just
live
something
here,
about
people. One of the army lists already determined.
Yeah, there we go. Plan for it, build against it.
Yeah.
List 3.
It's IDK. People don't need to build against it. We haven't got the best win rate at the minute, but I don't care. It's a really fun army to play. Eels. I took 1 unit in my first tournament. I played with it. I'm going to say this, they're not the best unit, but they're just really fun to play with. That one ability is just a laugh, just to charge into something and just go flow up, cause 30 mortal wounds, done.
Yeah.
Their attacks are good. I mean, when on the charge, -2 for 2, they're really good. I am playing around with some eels. I don't really know how they're going to go, but I'm playing around with some eels possibly coming up. I don't even know what to say. What else would I add? I would love to add a lot more sharks into this list. I think you could, if you chuck another 2-3 sharks into this list, it actually becomes a lot more viable selection.
Would you start considering like a Leviathan at all or anything like that?
Yes and no. So the Leviathan at the minute, at 430, 440 points, I still think it's worth its points.
Damn right.
It can be really, really dangerous, and it gives a huge +1 to save bubble, or +1 to hit for Namati units only. So everything else is Achillean. They're the Namati and the Thralls and the Reavers. There's a place for it in the army, but you have to build into it a little bit more. Right. If you're taking Thralls, it could be useful, but then you could get another 20, 30 Thralls out of it instead of one Leviathan. So if you lose 10 Thralls in one game and one turn, whatever, you got another 30 coming up behind it, sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So yes and no. There's a place for it if you have the points available.
Right.
Okay, so would you say then, with the Vanguard box set, it's kind of like you choose your own adventure. That's the introductory page, and then you kind of got to make decisions about if you're going to invest. Kind of know your end point first. Like, do I want to have a horde of Nomades and big turtles that buff them all up, or do I want to go sharp? Like, hello Pexes, please don't copyright whatever's happened there. Okay, is that kind of how this box would get positioned?
Yeah, so very good starter set into the army. Then you can build these and see where you want to go. I mean, you wouldn't have to add much to this to sort of go either way, sort of thing. I think it's the only thing you're really missing, if they would put it in there, would be Reavers, but that's just because Reavers are the bow guys, basically. Instead of things, they are one of the big strengths of the army, which I'd actually have in my army at the minute because I couldn't afford them, but that's another point. But it's a nice starter set for you to build on where you want to go. Yeah, one thing I will say, sorry, I forgot, is the big thing that you need to add to this, no matter what you do, is the Achillean King. He is far too powerful for the points. I will find exactly how many points he is right now, but he uses extra special abilities that give him stupid amounts of attack, stupid amounts of rend. Gives strike first to D3 units once per battle. He goes in, he kills something. He usually dies in return, but he goes in and just wipes out units. And then, as I said, he's played against Paul's Gits at one time and killed a Mangler Squig, a small hero, and hurt some else in one go.
Yeah, he swings and he slaps. That's why they call him the Slap King.
Yeah. He is going to be a guaranteed thing you need to add to this army. If you're playing into the spellcasting. There are Eidolons, but I don't know much about them. I haven't used them yet. I think they're all right. I think it could be an interesting addition to it.
Cool.
Excellent. Okay, so is that a thumbs up then for the Vanguard box?
Very much so. It's well worth the 85 quid.
Excellent. And obviously, if you want any more information about IDK, head down to your local SeaWorld and just talk to the guy stood a bit too close to the fondle tank. He'll have information for you.